Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, he said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize that, and you find strength, but there's a question there. How do you fight for something good without letting the fight burn you alive?" That's the central Stoic contradiction, and it's not a mistake. It's a sophisticated way to live. So we have these ancient principles, the dichotomy of control, virtuous action, radical resilience. They let you build something inside, an inner citadel. And you can do that while you're standing right on society's front lines. The goal is a practical philosophy for being engaged but tranquil. We need to see how peace can actually fuel action. And why acceptance is the secret to struggling effectively. So what does that mean? To fight for something you. Stoicism seems like a contradiction at first. You're supposed to build this unshakable inner fortress, but you're also supposed to be out in the world, in the messy arena of public life. It feels like a riddle, but that conflict is the whole point. It's not hypocrisy, it's a dual practice, a sophisticated one. The ancient Stoics weren't hermits. They were senators, teachers, emperors. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations on a mountaintop. He wrote them in military camps on the frontier while he was leading an empire. His inner citadel wasn't a retreat. It was his command center, the place he engaged the world from. So inner peace and outer action, they're not competing. They're two sides of the same coin. One fuels the other. Epictetus, who was born into hardship, he framed it perfectly. He said, "You're an actor in a play, and the playwright decides your character. If he wants you to play a beggar, play that part well. The play is your life in society. Your role might be a parent, a colleague, a community member. The materials you're given, the script, the other actors, those are external events. You don't control them, but your performance, your virtue, your inner stance toward the role, that's yours." That's the dual practice. You work diligently with the materials at hand, while fiercely protecting the freedom of your own mind. Think of a healthcare worker in an emergency department. The outer arena is constant pressure, human struggle, unpredictable outcomes. Their inner citadel is their trained focus, their calm, their compassionate but resilient heart. They can't control the flow of patients or the severity of illness, but they can control their response, their skill, their presence. Their inner peace isn't a lack of caring. It's what lets them care effectively, hour after hour, without burning out, or an activist working for a cause they believe in. The outer arena is opposition, slow progress, setbacks. If their sense of worth is chained to every victory or defeat, they'll be shattered. But if they build an inner citadel, they can separate their effort from the result. They can fight tirelessly for what's right, while their happiness stays rooted in the integrity of the fight itself, not in the changing winds of public opinion. So consider your own front line. Where is your arena of engagement? Your workplace, your family, a project, and then check the state of your inner citadel there. Is your peace under siege by the outcomes, or are you, like a Stoic, learning to fortify it from within? The most important skill for a soldier of society. It's not courage, it's not intelligence, it's a kind of mental discernment, a filter. The Stoics had a name for it, the dichotomy of control. It's the operating system. Its job is simple, to sort everything you encounter into one of two categories: what is up to you and what is not, what you control and what you do not. Epictetus begins his handbook with this. Some things are within our power, he says, and others are not. Within our power are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion. Our own actions. Not within our power are body, property, reputation, command. Whatever are not our own actions, that's the filter. Your judgments, your intentions, your efforts, your character, your actions right now, these are yours. The outcome of those actions, what other people say, past events, future circumstances, the weather, the traffic, these are not yours. This isn't about giving up. It's about targeting your energy. Without this filter, you live in a state of entanglement. You tie your happiness to things you can't command. You try to control opinions and end up frustrated. You hinge your peace on a specific result. That's the recipe for burnout, for feeling like the world is against you. With the filter engaged, you engage from a position of strength. You pour yourself into what you can control, and you meet everything else with calm acceptance. Take a practical example. You're preparing for a critical presentation. Your future seems to hinge on it. Without the filter, your mind is a storm. You're worrying about whether the senior manager will like you, anxious about a technical glitch. Replaying a colleague's skeptical comment, your energy is scattered on a dozen things you cannot control. Now engage the filter. What is up to you? Your preparation. The clarity of your slides, practicing your delivery, getting sleep, your attitude and focus during the presentation itself. What is not up to you? The manager's mood that day. The projector working, the questions your colleague might ask, the final decision the company makes. Your entire mission narrows to that first list. You work on it diligently. You walk into the room and perform your part. The outcome, that goes in the second column. You've done your work. The filter allowed you to fight with total commitment, without making your stability hostage to the result. So here's a small exercise. Think of one current worry, something taking up mental space, a difficult conversation, a project deadline. Take a mental notepad and draw 2 columns. In the first, list everything truly up to you. Your words, your tone, your preparation, your effort. In the second column, list everything that is not. The other person's reaction, unforeseen delays, outside factors. Just writing it down, applying the filter, begins to loosen the knot. It returns agency to you. It's how you start building that inner fortress, not to hide from the battle, but to stand firmly within it. Stoic peace isn't about wanting nothing. It's about wanting the right things. That's the discipline of desire. It's what drives the Stoic life, especially in difficult situations. Most ambition is aimed outward, a promotion, a certain result. Recognition, the Stoic turns that energy inward. They want to act with courage, with justice, with wisdom and self-control. They want to play their part well. Regardless of the outcome, regardless of the applause, Seneca wrote about this. He saw how people wear themselves out chasing things that promise happiness but can't actually give it. He called it a form of slavery. To be chained to a desire for some external prize is to give away the keys to your own contentment. The goal is to shift your deepest want. From the trophy to the integrity of running the race. Take a community organizer working for neighborhood improvement. The common desire is for immediate, visible change. A new park built by next year, a policy reversed, a clear, total victory. That desire is understandable, but it's a setup for frustration. The political process is slow. Funding falls through, support comes and goes. If her peace depends on that specific external result, she'll be on an emotional roller coaster. She'll likely burn out. Now apply the Stoic discipline. She reframes her deepest want. Instead of desiring the new park, she desires to serve her community faithfully. She wants to be diligent in her research, persuasive in her appeals, collaborative and resilient in the face of delays. The park is a preferred outcome, something she'll work toward with all her skill. But her core desire, her source of satisfaction, is anchored in the virtue of her own action. This realignment is liberating. It means she can work tirelessly, fight passionately, and yet remain inwardly steady. Whether the park is approved or not, her energy is no longer leaking into anxiety over an uncontrollable result. It's focused entirely on the quality of her contribution, which she can control. This discipline turns the front line from a place of strain into a place of purpose. You're no longer fighting for a reward that may never come. You're fighting because it's the right thing to do, the virtuous thing, the human thing, and that is a reward you can give yourself every single day. So bring this to your own arena. Look at a current struggle. What's the desire attached to it? Is it for a specific external outcome, a particular reaction, a defined win? Now ask, what would it feel like to release that specific desire and replace it with the desire to simply act well, to do your part with excellence and integrity? That shift doesn't weaken your resolve, it fortifies it with an unshakable foundation. Stoicism is about action, but it's action with a specific direction. This is the discipline of action. It's where your inner principles meet the world. It's the fighting part, but there's a rule. Your actions have to be guided by virtue. Not just by what works or what's easy. The four cardinal virtues are the compass, wisdom to see what's right, justice to act fairly toward others, courage to move forward even when you're afraid, and temperance to act with balance and measure. That's virtue in motion. It means when you engage with the world, you have a higher purpose than just winning. You're contributing to the common good, even in small ways, through your own conduct. Marcus Aurelius kept reminding himself of this. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one," and he'd tell himself in the morning the people he'd meet that day would be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant. They'd be dishonest, jealous, surly. They're like that because they can't tell good from evil. But I've seen the beauty of good, he'd say, and the ugliness of evil. I've recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. So I can't be harmed by them. No one can fix on me what is ugly. I can't be angry with my relative or hate him. We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes. To obstruct each other is unnatural. To feel anger, to turn your back, these are obstructions. His instruction was clear. Do the next right thing. Do it with kindness. Your role is to work with others, not against your own nature. Think about a professional in a high-stakes negotiation. The common approach might be to use deception, to hide information, to strong-arm the other side for maximum personal gain. That might work in the short term, but the Stoic discipline asks a different question. What would a wise and just approach look like? It means preparing thoroughly, understanding both sides, seeking a fair outcome that respects everyone. It means having the courage to walk away from a deal that would compromise your integrity. It means exercising temperance, not letting the heat of the moment lead to harsh words or reckless promises. The action is the same. You're still fighting for a result, but the compass has shifted from mere victory to virtuous engagement. The energy is cleaner. Even if the deal falls through, you leave with your character intact, ready for the next right action. So this week, identify one arena of your life, one front line where you're already engaged. It could be a conflict at home, a project at work, a volunteer effort. Before you act, pause, consult that inner compass. Don't ask what's the most effective move. Ask what's the wise move, the just, courageous, temperate move. How can you inject more virtuous intent into your actions? The goal isn't to become passive. It's to make your motion through the world a statement of the peace you're building inside. The Stoic learns to love the front lines. That's the expression of their peace. It's called Amor Fati, love of your fate, and it's not passive. It's not shrugging and saying whatever happens. That's something else. That's fatalism. Amor Fati is active. It's fierce. You look at the obstacle, the setback, the bad luck, and you say, this is material. This is the context I've been given to practice, to work. Nietzsche took this from the Stoics. He wrote about it. His formula for greatness was Amor Fati. That you want nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not to just bear what's necessary, but to love it. That's the shift from bearing to loving. Marcus Aurelius did this. He wrote to himself, "A blazing fire makes flame from whatever's thrown in. Your fate is the fuel, the difficult parts. The question is whether it smothers you or you use it." To burn brighter, there's a historical moment for this. Cato the Younger, a Stoic, he fought Julius Caesar in the Senate on the battlefield. He lost. His cause was defeated. Facing capture, he took his own life, a final act of freedom by his principles, but from the Amor Fati view, his death wasn't the end. It became a symbol. It fueled later generations against tyranny. His fate, even tragic, became material. For the long story of republican ideals, he couldn't control the outcome. But he could love his role within it. His defeat became a victory for his character. Now take it down to a modern scale, an entrepreneur, years into a startup. Innovative product, dedicated team, then a global shift, funding evaporates, the company closes. The common story is crushing failure, but with Amor Fati, the view changes. This isn't a disaster to just endure. This is the context for the next chapter. It's the material. She can love this fate because it taught a resilience she wouldn't have known. It revealed true allies. It forced a clarity. It becomes the necessary fuel for the next venture, which will be wiser, leaner, more grounded. She doesn't celebrate the loss, but she embraces it as an indispensable part of the story. So look back at a recent obstacle, a project that failed, a plan that fell apart, a hardship. Try on the lens. Don't ask why this happened to me. Ask how this is happening for me. What material has this given me? How has it forced a growth that comfort never could? How can I not just accept this chapter, but see it as necessary, a part of the whole story? This mindset doesn't remove the sting. It transmutes it. It turns the battlefield from a place of suffering into your chosen training ground. And from that ground, resilient action can grow. You can rise above everything. See the planet from a distance, that pale blue dot. Now look at your life from there. Your meeting, your worry, how does it look from that distance? This is the Stoic exercise, the view from above. It's not about making things seem small. It's about giving them the right kind of significance. You see your struggle as part of a whole, an interconnected whole, and that drains the poison out. The anxiety that shouts starts to whisper because you're not the center, you're a conscious part of it. Marcus Aurelius used this. He'd write about the universal substance. You have a very small portion. He'd write about universal time. A brief moment is assigned to you. Think of destiny, how small a part of it you are. He'd look at the stars. Remember, we're all made of the same star stuff, a common nature. He'd think of all the people who have lived, who have loved, who have worried just as urgently as you do. Where are they now? Their struggles felt monumental, and they've passed into the stream of time. This perspective frames your effort. It doesn't belittle it. Your actions matter, but they're not the only thing that matters. That creates a humility, a strange empowerment. You're free from the weight of your drama needing to be the main event. Try it. You have a difficult conversation today. Your heart races thinking about it. Apply the view from above. Zoom out from the room. See your building, your neighborhood as a grid. See the city, the continent from space. That image of the quiet, spinning earth. Now think of human history, all the conversations that have ever happened. The agreements, the conflicts, yours is one of them. See the other person, not an opponent, another human, shaped by their own history, their own fears. Standing on the same small planet, from there, does the need to be right feel as sharp? Does the fear of an awkward moment feel catastrophic? The stakes are still real, but they're placed in their proper scale. You can enter that room now, not as an ego defending territory, as a person engaging another person with clarity. So think of a current stress, a tension at work, a financial worry. For 30 seconds, close your eyes. Take that view from above. See the sweep of time and space. Your life as a single point of light within it. Your struggle is real, but it's part of a much larger story. This exercise doesn't solve the problem. It solves your relationship to the problem. It returns you to your front line, not with less resolve, with renewed perspective. Your inner citadel has windows now. Windows that look out on the cosmos, reminding you why you fight and how little you truly have to lose. Stoics find peace by thinking about failure, thinking about difficulty. It sounds like a contradiction to build calm by considering what could go wrong. That ancient exercise is called Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. It's not pessimism, it's not anxiety, it's a mental vaccine. You inoculate yourself against the shock of hardship by rehearsing it first. You take away the future's power to surprise you, to destabilize you. Seneca practiced this. He wrote about it to his friend Lucilius. He said we should tell ourselves that fortune may take away what she has given. Not everything she gives is meant to be kept. We should love the people close to us, but always with the thought that we have no promise we can keep them forever. It sounds severe, but his goal was freedom. By mentally accepting loss beforehand, you are never ambushed by grief. By anticipating a change, you are never shattered by a reversal. The practice builds a steady platform, a place to act from no matter what the day brings. Think of it as a fire drill. You don't do a fire drill because you want the building to burn. You do it so that if smoke ever fills the hallway, your response is calm. It's practiced, it's effective. The premeditation of difficulties works the same way. It's strategic preparation for the front lines of life. Take a modern professional leading a major project launch. Without this practice, she might only visualize success. The flawless presentation, the glowing reviews, the immediate approval. Her entire emotional state is tied to that single, perfect outcome. Now, let her practice the Stoic exercise. She sits quietly well before the launch day. She mentally walks through what could go wrong. The key stakeholder might be dismissive. The demo software might crash. Critical feedback might come from an unexpected place. She doesn't dwell on these thoughts with fear. She examines them with calm curiosity. For each potential challenge, she asks herself, what is within my power if this happens? Her answer might be, I can have backup devices ready. I can prepare a concise response to that criticism. I can control my tone and remain professional. By visualizing these obstacles, she does two things. She develops practical contingency plans, and more importantly, she emotionally inoculates herself. When launch day arrives, if a problem occurs, it feels familiar. It feels like a scenario she has already navigated in her mind. Her heart rate stays steady. Her thinking stays clear. She engages from a place of preparedness, not panic. This practice turns fear into foresight. It transforms the unknown, which is terrifying, into a series of known variables which are manageable. The Stoic doesn't live in dread of tomorrow. They walk into tomorrow with their eyes wide open, having already met its potential hardships in the safe space of their own mind. So here's a small experiment. Think of a challenge you will face tomorrow, a difficult task, a conversation, a decision. Before you sleep tonight, spend just a few minutes in this exercise. Do not imagine everything going perfectly. Gently consider what the real difficulties might be, not to scare yourself but to see them, and for each one, ask the core Stoic question. What would my best self do in that moment? What is truly within my power to respond with? Plan that response, rehearse it mentally, then let it go. You are not inviting trouble. You are building an inner readiness so that when you step onto your front line, you carry not a hope for smooth sailing, but the quiet confidence of a prepared sailor. Ready for any weather. What if your own peace was connected to everyone else's? That's the shift the Stoics point toward, Sympatheia, this idea of a shared connection. That we aren't just separate fighters in our own battles, we're more like parts of one living body, all of humanity. So your inner strength, that citadel, it isn't a lonely fortress. It's a watchtower, but it's connected to a whole network. Your peace depends on the health of that network. That changes how you face any struggle. It stops being a selfish fight. It becomes a kind of duty. Your action becomes a way of caring for the larger body you're a part of. Marcus Aurelius kept coming back to this. He wrote that what doesn't help the hive doesn't help the bee. What's bad for the swarm is bad for the bee. He saw himself as a citizen of the universe, a piece of the whole, and from that view, your own calm is tied to creating harmony around you. Hurting another person is hurting yourself because you're damaging part of your own greater self. That's the real basis for compassion. It's not about being polite. It's about seeing an actual kinship. When you see someone in trouble, you're seeing a part of your own body in distress, so your response comes from that. Not from pity, from a natural instinct to care for the whole. Think about someone advocating for the environment. They could come from anger, fighting corporations, fighting opponents. Fueled by that division, that fire can burn, but it often burns out, or they could root their work in Sympatheia, see the planet as the shared body. A polluted river isn't just a problem for some other town. It's a sickness in a limb of their own body. Future generations aren't just an idea, they're the continuing life of the body they belong to. From that place, their work changes. It can still be fierce, still determined, but it's rooted in connection, not in hating an enemy. Their arguments become invitations, a reminder of our shared home. Their energy lasts because it comes from love for the whole, not just anger at a part. So this week, in your next interaction, try that lens. You're in a disagreement maybe, or you see someone being ignored. Before you act, pause. Try to shift your view just for a second. Don't see an opponent, see a fellow part of this vast human body. See how that changes your tone, the intention behind what you do. Your own peace gets stronger when it's expressed as care for others, because you're really tending to your own extended self. Stoics have this secret clause they add to every plan. It's just a short phrase, something you say to yourself, fate permitting, or if nothing prevents. They call it the reserve clause, and it's what lets you act fully without being completely attached. It's how you can fight for something with everything you have and still keep yourself safe. You state your intention, I'm going to give that presentation tomorrow. Then you add quietly, fate permitting, I'll be at my daughter's recital next week if nothing prevents. This isn't about superstition, it's a psychological move. It creates a little space between your effort and the result, a buffer for your own peace. Epictetus put it very clearly. He told his students to go confidently toward their goal, but to say, I will sail across the ocean if nothing prevents. He said you have to hold on to what is yours and be willing to let everything else go. A sailor doesn't control the wind, so he makes his plan and he adds if the wind allows. He prepares his ship with total care. He studies the charts. He checks every rope. His commitment is complete, but his own stability isn't tied to the weather. The reserve clause is just acknowledging reality. It says, my will is here, but the world has its own will. I'm cooperating with something larger. Think about an athlete training for the Olympics. For years, her life is built around this one goal. Every meal, every early morning, every sore muscle is for that. Without the reserve clause, her whole identity becomes that gold medal. Her sense of worth gets packed into one moment on a future day. That's a fragile way to live. Now see her train with the Stoic clause. Her intention is absolute. I will give everything to stand on that podium, fate permitting. She knows an injury could happen. An illness, a judging call, someone else might simply be better. Those things aren't in her power, so she trains with a kind of detached commitment. She pours herself into the process, the daily discipline, the quality of her own effort. The goal is out there, but her peace comes from the climb itself, not the summit she may or may not reach. If she makes it, she accepts it with gratitude, not as a validation she needed. If she falls short, she accepts that with grace because she never staked her core worth on it. Her inner citadel stays intact. This turns ambition from something that creates anxiety into a source of focused energy. You're freed from that desperate need for a specific future. That desperation is what drains you, what makes effort feel heavy. The reserve clause lightens the load. It lets you strive with a sort of joyful seriousness. So take something you're working toward right now, a career step, a creative project, a fitness goal. State your intention clearly, then, in your mind, add those quiet words, fate permitting. If nothing prevents, feel the shift. The goal doesn't get smaller. It can actually become clearer because the fog of anxiety around it starts to lift. Your energy can flow into the work, into the actions you control, instead of leaking away into worry about the result. You start to engage with the world not as a demand but as a kind of dialogue. You state your piece and then you listen for the reply. The Stoic carries a reminder of death. Not as something morbid but as a tool, a life-giving tool. That's the practice of Memento Mori. Remember you must die. It sounds stark, but its purpose is the opposite of despair. It's a lens for clarity, a way to see through the fog of daily distraction, to see what's essential. The Stoics didn't dwell on the end to become fearful. They contemplated it to become fully alive, right now, on the front lines where it counts. Marcus Aurelius returned to this thought again and again in his private writings. You could leave life right now, he would tell himself. Let that determine what you do and say and think. He saw his own mortality not as a distant shadow, but as a constant companion, a companion that whispered a simple question. Is this how you want to spend your precious and limited time? This awareness acts like a filter. It strips away the trivial concerns, the petty grievances, the endless postponements. It asks, if not now, when? If not this, what truly matters? For a person engaged in the struggles of society, this is a source of immense power. It turns procrastination into purposeful action. It turns vague ambition into focused, virtuous effort. Consider a social reformer working on a long-term, difficult issue like educational equity. The scale of the problem is vast. Bureaucracy moves slowly. Setbacks are frequent. It's easy to get lost in planning meetings that go nowhere or in perfecting a strategy document for months. The shadow of impermanence can seem to justify delay. There's always tomorrow, but Memento Mori changes that calculus, remembering that her time is finite. And the time of the children she serves is finite. It forces a ruthless prioritization. She asks, if my work here ended unexpectedly, what is the one thing I would regret not doing? What is the most direct, impactful action I can take today? It might mean choosing to visit a classroom instead of writing another report. It might mean having a courageous conversation with a decision maker instead of waiting for the perfect moment. The awareness of an ending gives her beginnings a fierce urgency, not a frantic one, but a clear and steady one. This practice doesn't mean living in a state of grim pressure. It means living with a profound sense of gratitude and focus. The trivial annoyance in a traffic jam, the needless worry about a minor criticism, the hour lost scrolling through a screen. These things soften and fall away when held against the backdrop of a finite life. What remains are the relationships to nurture, the work that expresses your character. The moments of simple presence. The Stoic uses the thought of mortality to burn away everything that isn't love, isn't duty, isn't a real contribution. So bring this lens to your own front line just for a moment. Ask yourself this reflective question. If you carried a conscious, gentle reminder that your time is limited and precious, what would you stop doing today? And more importantly, what would you finally start? What conversation would you have? What project would you advance one real step? What grudge or fear would you release to make space for what truly matters? The answer isn't about a bucket list of grand experiences. It's about the quality of your engagement with the ordinary, meaningful battles already before you. Remembering the end makes the middle, the living, the fighting, the caring infinitely more vivid. The front line is usually in your mind. You could be in a quiet park, but if your mind is at war, you're still in the trenches. That's the deeper part of the dichotomy of control. It's not just sorting what you can and can't control. It's seeing that the real pain, the disturbance, almost never comes from the thing itself. It comes from the story you tell about it, your judgment, your perception. That's the primary inner work, and reforming those judgments is the most direct path to peace. That peace is what then fuels clear action in the world. Epictetus put it clearly. He said people aren't disturbed by things, but by the views they take of them. So when you're distressed, the distress isn't in the event, it's in your judgment of the event, and that judgment is something you can examine, you can question it. You can change it. That turns every external challenge into an internal one. The real fight is to see things as they are, not as your fears or your pride insist they must be. Take a common scenario. Two colleagues get the same piece of critical feedback from their manager. The first colleague's immediate judgment is, this is an attack. They're saying I'm incompetent, they don't respect my work. That judgment triggers a cascade: defensiveness, resentment, anxiety. Their peace is shattered. Their energy for the project drains away, replaced by a need to defend their ego. Their actions become argumentative or they withdraw. Their effectiveness is diminished. The second colleague hears the same words. Their initial judgment is different. They see it as information, constructive feedback, a sign the manager is engaged and wants the project to succeed. That judgment creates a different internal landscape: curiosity, a desire to understand, a focus on improvement. Their peace stays intact because their sense of worth isn't tied to being perfect. It's tied to being capable of learning. From that calm center, their actions are productive. They ask clarifying questions. They integrate the useful feedback. They move the project forward with more clarity. The external event was identical. The entire difference was forged on the inner battlefield of judgment. That's your point of power. In any situation between the event and your emotional reaction, there's a tiny, crucial space. That space contains your judgment. The practice is to widen that space, to insert a moment of awareness before the story solidifies, to ask, what is the bare fact here, separate from my interpretation? Is this criticism an attack, or is it data? Is this delay a personal sabotage, or is it a neutral circumstance? Is this person's tone a sign of disrespect, or are they just having a difficult day? You don't have to accept the first story your mind offers. You can choose a different one, a more accurate one, a more empowering one. So here's a small challenge. Before the day ends, catch one negative judgment you made. It might be about a driver on the road, a comment from a family member, a setback in your plans. Pause, replay the event, then consciously reframe the judgment. Strip away the charged narrative and state the simple fact. Then offer one alternative, more generous or neutral interpretation. You're not denying reality. You're exercising your freedom to choose the lens through which you see it. That's how you disarm the bombs on your inner battlefield, so you can walk onto the outer one with your strength preserved, ready for the work that actually matters. Stoic tranquility is the foundation for courage. It's not the opposite. A calm mind isn't a quiet mind. It's a clear mind, and from that clarity, action can emerge. It has a precision that agitation can never achieve. That's the virtue of courage, stoically understood. It's not the absence of fear. It's the commitment to do what is right. To do it despite the presence of fear. Your inner peace is the stable ground. It's the ground you step forward from into the storm. Without that ground, what we call courage is often just a reactive impulse. A lashing out born from frustration or panic. True courage is a choice, a measured stand, a principled stand, and it requires an inner stillness. You need that stillness to even see what the principled stand is. Seneca explored this. He wrote about it in On the Firmness of the Wise Person. He described the brave mind as one that remains undisturbed. It's not that the brave person feels no alarm. He wrote that they do not yield to it. The mind stands firm. It sees its way through. This is the synthesis. The inner citadel isn't a place to hide. It's not for hiding from the arrows of fortune. It's the fortified position. From there, you observe those arrows, you judge their trajectory, and then you decide how to move. Your peace is what allows you to act from conviction, not from compulsion. Consider Cato the Younger. His opposition to Julius Caesar wasn't a hot-headed rebellion. By all accounts, it was cold, deliberate, a principled stand for the republican system he believed in. He acted from a place of deep conviction about what was just. His courage was fueled by his philosophical commitment, not by personal hatred, not by fleeting passion. He could face political defeat, he could face exile. He could face his own end. He faced them with a firmness that astonished his contemporaries, because his inner compass was calibrated to virtue, not to victory. His peace was in his alignment with what he believed was right, and that peace enabled a legendary courage. Bring this to a modern scale, a relatable scale. Think of a workplace whistleblower. They see a practice that is unethical, maybe even illegal. Speaking up carries immense risk, loss of reputation, alienation from colleagues. Potential financial hardship. The common emotional state here would be intense anxiety, sleepless nights, a churning stomach. That is the fear. The Stoic approach doesn't eliminate those sensations. It creates a space around them. The individual cultivates their inner citadel. They return to their core values. They separate what is up to them, their integrity, their duty to speak the truth, from what is not up to them. The backlash isn't up to them. The career consequences aren't up to them. From that place of clarified intention, the courageous action is taken. It's not done in a fever of anger. It's done from a sober understanding, an understanding that this is what justice requires. The action is clean, precise. It's far more sustainable because it isn't draining an emotional reservoir. It's expressing a principled stance. So where in your own life could this synthesis live? Where have you been avoiding an action, not because it is wrong, but because it is frightening? Perhaps it's a difficult conversation, a conversation you need to have with someone you care about. Maybe it's setting a firm boundary, a boundary where you have been too flexible. It could be advocating for an idea at work, an idea you believe in but fear will be rejected. The avoidance is often a sign that your inner peace is already disturbed by the prospect. The Stoic invitation is to first fortify that peace. Remind yourself of the dichotomy. What is truly within your power here? Your honest words are, your respectful tone is. Your clear intention is, the other person's reaction is not. Then, from that more settled center, plan the action. See it not as a confrontation. See it as an expression of your own integrity. The courage flows naturally from that foundation. It is the courage to be the person you believe you should be, regardless of the echo that comes back. That is how peace and bravery become partners on the front lines of a meaningful life. The Stoics had a ritual for the front lines. They didn't just sleep on the chaos. Each night they'd do this thing, an evening review. It wasn't about judgment, it was about learning, clear-eyed learning. It closed the loop, your principles, your actions. It kept the day's battles from becoming ghosts, haunting your peace. You'd examine them, learn from them, then let them go. Seneca wrote about this in On Anger. He said he'd question himself each night. What bad habit did you cure today? What fault did you resist? In what way are you better? It wasn't a harsh inquisition. It was a conversation, gentle, firm, a talk with his own progress. The goal was improvement, continuous improvement, not perfection, and it was a release. A way to let go of guilt, to reinforce the good efforts, to keep that inner harmony so you're ready for the next day's engagement. Think of a craftsman. At the end of a long day, they clean their tools, sawdust swept up, blades wiped clean, oiled, the workbench put in order. That's not just tidiness, it's respect. For the craft, it makes sure the tools are ready, sharp, for tomorrow's project. The evening review is that for your character. You're sweeping away the mental sawdust. The reactions, the events, you're oiling the hinges of your virtues so they move smoothly. You're putting your inner workshop in order. You can practice it with 3 questions. In the last quiet minutes before sleep, ask them quietly. First, what did I do well today? Where did I act with courage, justice, wisdom, self-control? Maybe you listened patiently when you wanted to interrupt. Maybe you chose the honest path in a small decision. Acknowledge that. It reinforces the pathways. The neural pathways of virtuous action. It's not about ego. It's about recognizing what you want to cultivate. Second, where did I fall short? Where did my actions drift from my principles? Be specific but compassionate. Did I speak harshly out of frustration? Did I avoid a responsibility out of fear? The point isn't to berate yourself. It's to see the misstep clearly, like a navigator, noting they drifted a few degrees off course. You just note the correction, what's needed. Third, how can I improve tomorrow? This turns reflection into preparation. Based on what you learned, what's one small step, one actionable step? If you were impatient today, your step might be to take 3 breaths before responding to the first request tomorrow. If you avoided a task, your step might be to do the very first part, the smallest part, first thing in the morning. This question closes the review with forward momentum. You're not ending on what went wrong. You're ending on a plan to do better. So tonight, instead of letting the day swirl unresolved, try this pause, a structured pause. Find a quiet moment. Ask those 3 questions. What went well? What could have been better? What is my tiny step for tomorrow? Then set it down consciously. You've processed the material, learned the lesson. Now you can rest, your inner citadel tidied, fortified, ready for whatever the dawn brings to your front line. The Stoics had this idea called Oikeiosis. It's a process of belonging or appropriation. It starts with a simple impulse. A newborn wants comfort, warmth, nourishment. That's self-preservation, but as we grow, if we develop rationally, that circle of care widens. We start to see our family as part of our self-interest. Then our friends, then our community, our nation, and finally all of humanity. And the Stoics argued this isn't just moral idealism. It's a recognition of our true nature. We are social beings, rational beings. Our deepest fulfillment, our truest peace, comes from living in accordance with that nature. So serving society isn't a sacrifice of inner peace. It's the expression of it. It resolves the contradiction by showing the front line isn't outside of us. It's where we meet the extended parts of our own being. The philosopher Hierocles illustrated this with concentric circles. Imagine rings drawn around a central point. The innermost circle is your own mind. The next circle holds your immediate family, then extended family, close friends, neighbors, fellow citizens, and the outermost circle containing all of humanity. And our task, Hierocles suggested, isn't to erase these circles. It's to draw the outer ones inward, to bring the concerns of those in distant circles closer to the center. To treat a neighbor more like family, a fellow citizen more like a neighbor. This mental exercise stretches our empathy. It makes care a practice, not just a feeling. Consider a business leader. They might start a career focused solely on profit, the innermost circle of personal gain. They could achieve financial success, but it often feels hollow. Isolating, as they mature, perhaps through Stoic reflection, they start to see their employees not as resources, but as a closer circle. Their well-being matters. Then they see their customers and the local community as another circle. Their impact matters, so the leader's focus shifts from mere profit to creating genuine value. Value for employees through fair treatment, value for the community through ethical practices. And this expansion doesn't ruin the business. It often strengthens it with loyalty and trust. And crucially, it brings the leader a deeper sense of fulfillment. Their work is no longer an isolated battle for personal gain. It's a contribution to a larger whole. Their inner peace grows because their actions are now aligned with their rational, social nature. They are living as a human being is meant to live, connected, contributing, part of something greater, so you could draw those concentric circles in your mind or on paper, label them from yourself out to all of humanity. Look at your current engagements, your worries, your efforts, see which circles they primarily inhabit, and then ask which outer circle could you consciously draw a little closer this week. Could you extend a gesture to a colleague you usually keep at a distance? Could you learn about a challenge facing your wider community, not with obligation, but with curiosity? The expansion isn't about grand gestures, it's a subtle shift in perception, seeing the stranger as a potential friend, seeing the community's need as connected to your own flourishing. Each small act of drawing a circle inward fortifies your inner citadel with a truth. You are not a lone fighter. You are a citizen of the world, and your peace is woven into the peace of the whole. Apatheia, that's the last piece of the Stoic inner citadel, and it's a misunderstood word. It doesn't mean apathy. Stoics aren't unfeeling. They're free from emotional hijackings. The goal is to be free from these irrational, overwhelming passions, the ones that seize control, that cloud your judgment. It's the difference between feeling a deep sadness and being consumed by a paralyzing despair. Between a flash of irritation and a blinding rage, those overwhelming states, the Stoics called them passions. They're the storms, they obscure your inner lighthouse. Make it impossible to navigate with clarity. Seneca's entire work on anger is a masterclass in this. He doesn't say you won't feel the initial sting. The first agitation of the mind, he writes, that's not really voluntary. It's a reflex, like flinching from a loud noise, but what happens next, that's where your freedom is. Do you fuel that spark into a wildfire of rage, or do you let it pass without giving it your assent? The passion isn't the first feeling. It's the choice to let that feeling become your commander. Consider a paramedic arriving at a serious incident. The situation is charged with urgency, with human struggle. Apathy would be a disaster. To feel nothing would make them careless. What they practice is apatheia. They feel the gravity, the compassion, the adrenaline, but they don't let fear freeze them. They don't let the emotional weight overwhelm their trained procedures. Their feelings are present, but they're not in the driver's seat. The driver is their reason, their skill, their duty. That freedom lets them act with swift, effective compassion. Their calm isn't indifference, it's the highest form of care. So reflect on your own recent week. Can you identify a moment where a passion, in the Stoic sense, briefly took the wheel? Maybe it was a surge of frustration during a work call that made your tone sharp, that closed off dialogue, or a wave of anxiety about a future event. That spent your mental energy on worry instead of preparation. That disruptive emotion, that hijacking, that's what apatheia seeks to free you from, not to make you cold. To make you clear, so your full human capacity for feeling can be channeled into purposeful, effective action instead of being dissipated in internal storms. Stoics talk about this idea of enough. They find it right in the middle of the struggle. It's their form of contentment, which seems strange, to be content while you're fighting, while you're striving, but it comes from a shift, a subtle one. Stoic contentment isn't about reaching some final point where the struggle stops. It's about finding sufficiency in the effort itself. In the action you take today, it's the discipline of desire. You stop looking for peace at some finish line, in a trophy, in a perfect result. You find it in the movement toward that line, in the integrity of that movement. Epictetus said the good life isn't in wealth or status. Those are just materials, like wood to a carpenter. The carpenter's excellence isn't in owning the wood. It's in the skill of shaping it. Your life is your material. Your character is your craft. Contentment is the feeling of doing that craft well, with the tools you have now. It's knowing you did what you could with what you had, where you were. That changes the struggle. It's no longer a gap between where you are and where you want to be. It becomes the ground where you build fulfillment. Think of a teacher in a school with few resources. The challenges are real, standardized pressures. Large classes, maybe not enough materials. If she ties her contentment to external things, every student hitting a test score, recognition from administrators, a policy change, she's setting up for frustration. Those outcomes aren't fully in her power, but her daily effort is. Her preparation for today's lesson is in her power. The care she takes explaining a concept to one student. The patience she cultivates when the room is chaotic, that's in her power. Stoic contentment is what she feels at the end of a demanding day, when she can look back and say, I acted with diligence, with compassion, with the wisdom I had. I used what I had to the best of my ability. That is enough. It doesn't mean she stops advocating for better resources. It doesn't mean she abandons hope for her students. It means her fundamental sense of worth and peace isn't held hostage by those long-term results. It's anchored in the daily practice of her work. This art changes the front line from a place of lack to a place of presence. You're not fighting because you're discontent. You're fighting from a place of contentment with your own role in the fight. So for your own engagement today, look at one arena where you're striving, where you're working towards something. Before you measure the day by the outcome, pause. Ask a different question. Can you find contentment in the quality of your effort today, regardless of the outcome? Can you take satisfaction in the preparation you did? The kindness you showed, the patience you practiced, the principled stand you took. That satisfaction isn't a reward the world gives you. It's a peace you give yourself. And it's the fuel. It makes the long struggle sustainable and meaningful. The most powerful tool is a moment of silence. That's the Stoic pause. It's that space you create between something happening and your reaction to it. That space is what makes everything else work. Without it, the idea of control is just a theory. Virtue is just a nice thought. You get swept away by the impulse before you even remember you have a choice. The pause is where you get back to the helm. It's where reason gets to step in. Epictetus put it clearly. He said, don't let the force of an impression carry you away as soon as it hits. Just tell it, wait a moment, let me see who you are, let me see what you represent, let me put you to the test. That's the practice. You intercept the raw event before your judgment hardens around a story. Before the story of insult or catastrophe gets written, in that quiet space you can apply your filters. You can ask, is this within my control? What virtue is needed here? What would my best self do? The pause is the superpower because it turns you from a reactor into a responder. Think about a common trigger, a provocative email. A message arrives, the subject line tightens your chest. You read it, the tone feels dismissive, the facts might be wrong. Your immediate reaction without the pause is a chemical storm. Adrenaline, heat in the face, your fingers fly to the keyboard to fire back a sharp reply. You hit send, and then, almost instantly, a cold feeling settles in. You've escalated, you've tied your inner state to the conflict, your peace is broken, and your action probably made things worse. Now replay that with the Stoic pause. The same email arrives, you feel the same initial sting. That's the reflex. It's not a choice, but here you enact the discipline. Before your hands move, you take one deliberate breath. You physically step away from the screen, you get a glass of water, you create that space, and in that space, reason begins to whisper, this is an email. It's words on a screen. The sender's state of mind is not within my control. My reputation isn't destroyed by one message. What is within my control is my response. What would a wise and just response look like? Maybe it's a request for a conversation. Maybe it's a brief, factual reply that doesn't mirror the tone. Maybe the most powerful action is to not reply at all, to let it settle. The pause allowed all those options to emerge. It prevented the hijacking. It kept your inner citadel intact, and it led to an action that served the situation, not just the momentary emotion. This practice turns daily life into a training ground. The rude comment from a stranger, the sudden change in plans, the disappointing news, each one is an invitation to insert that moment of silence. To hold the impression at the gate and examine it before you let it into your mind. So here's a direct challenge. Before today ends, implement the Stoic Pause at least once. Choose one predictable trigger. Maybe it's when your phone buzzes with a notification. Instead of instantly grabbing it, pause for 3 breaths. Maybe it's when someone says something that typically irritates you. Pause before your familiar retort forms. In that tiny sanctuary of silence, you are not being passive. You are being profoundly active. You are building the muscle of inner sovereignty. And with each pause, you strengthen your capacity to stand on any front line, not as a puppet of circumstance, but as an agent of your own peace. The Stoics had this idea of providence. It's a trust in a rational cosmos. They called that rational principle the logos. The universe isn't just random, hostile events. It's an interconnected whole. A living system of cause and effect. This isn't about blind faith in a personal God. It's a philosophical choice, a choice to see the world as fundamentally ordered. Even when your own piece of it feels completely chaotic, that trust becomes a source of comfort, and more than that, a source of purpose. It lets you engage in the struggle without the crushing weight of believing the universe is against you, or that it's meaningless. Marcus Aurelius came back to this thought again and again. He wrote to himself, "Everything harmonizes with me, which is harmonious to you, O universe. Nothing for me is too early or too late, which is in due time for you." He saw his own life with all its battles as a note in a vast symphony, a note that was necessary for the beauty of the whole. He would look at a spider's web or the movement of the stars and see that same rational principle at work in human affairs, even in the difficult ones. This perspective reframes hardship. A setback isn't a malicious twist of fate. It's data. It's feedback from a rational system, the universe presenting the next piece of the puzzle. Your job isn't to curse the puzzle, it's to learn from the shape of the piece. Think of a research scientist. She's working on a complex problem, maybe a new treatment. She runs experiment after experiment. Most yield what you'd call failure, no clear result, an unexpected reaction, a contaminated sample. Without a trust in a rational cosmos, that grind feels like a personal trial. A series of random, discouraging dead ends. Her motivation relies on her own fleeting willpower, but with the Stoic lens of providence, her view shifts. Each so-called failure isn't a random slap. It's valuable data within a larger, rational process. The universe, through these results, is telling her something. Eliminating a possibility, pointing toward a new variable. The process itself is the unfolding of a logical order. Her trust isn't that she'll succeed on her timeline. Her trust is that there's an order to be understood that allows her to persist with a curious, resilient calm. Her engagement is clean. She's collaborating with reality, not fighting a chaotic enemy. So you bring this to your own front line. Look at a recurring challenge, a pattern of difficulty in a relationship, a series of professional obstacles. What if you chose to view this not as a personal curse or random bad luck, but as part of a larger tapestry, a pattern you can't yet see the full shape of? This doesn't mean you passively accept poor treatment, or that you stop trying to improve things. It means you engage with the situation as if it has something to teach you. As if it is, in some way, the necessary context for your growth. Ask yourself, if I trusted that this struggle was part of a meaningful, rational whole, however hidden that meaning is, how would my energy change? Would the frustration soften into curiosity? Would the despair lift just enough to reveal the next small, rational step? That step is always there, waiting in the trust that the world makes sense. The Stoics would go to the gym for resilience. They didn't wait for life to bring hardship. They chose it themselves in small doses. That's voluntary hardship. It's the deliberate practice of doing without, of embracing discomfort, to build the mental muscle you'll need for the real storms. You're stress testing your inner citadel. You want to know it can hold. Seneca was a wealthy man, an advisor to an emperor, and he would practice periods of simple living. He'd sleep on a hard bed, wear plain clothing, eat the most basic food for days. He wrote that he did this as training, not punishment, to remind himself that happiness wasn't in luxury. To prove he could still be content, still be himself without his comforts, he was testing his own fortitude, making sure his peace was built on something more stable than external conditions. That practice strips away the fear of loss. If you voluntarily experienced a simpler state, you know you can handle it, and that knowledge is a profound freedom. It means you engage with the world not from clinging, but from a place of confident capability. Modern life offers soft, comfortable ruts. We can avoid almost all minor discomforts. But that avoidance makes us fragile. When the inevitable hardship arrives, a financial pinch, a rejection, a loss, we have no resilience to draw on. We haven't trained. Voluntary hardship is that training. It's the cold shower you choose, not because you enjoy the shock, but to practice mastery over your instinct. It's a digital detox for a weekend, practicing the ability to be with your own thoughts. It's taking on a difficult physical task, like a long hike, to learn you can push through fatigue with a focused mind. It's having the courageous conversation you've been avoiding, stepping into that emotional arena to strengthen your integrity. Each of these is a rep in the gym of your character. They aren't about proving how tough you are to the world. They're private proofs to yourself, proof that your comfort zone is larger than you thought, that your peace is more durable than you feared. So this week, choose one small voluntary hardship, safe and reasonable. Maybe skip a habitual luxury, like that afternoon coffee or a streaming binge. Maybe wake up 30 minutes earlier to sit in quiet reflection. It could be doing a difficult but important task first thing in the morning, before checking your phone. The point is the conscious choice, the mindful embrace of a minor lack. Notice the initial resistance, then notice the space that opens up on the other side. A space where you realize you are okay, you are still you, and your inner citadel just gained one more stone of unshakable confidence. The Stoics had a sharp sense of humor. It might seem strange given how serious they're known for being, but that humor was intentional. It was a tool, a weapon against life's absurdity and against the ego's fragility. When fortune threw something ridiculous your way, you could laugh at the theatricality of it. This wasn't mockery. It was a kind of distancing, a way to step back and see the situation from a wider angle. That laugh creates a small space between you and the event. It stops you from being completely identified with the insult or the setback. Your peace stays intact because you're observing the comedy, not just being swept up in your own role. There are stories from the ancient texts. Cato the Younger, a man of unyielding principle, was once assaulted in the public baths. After the scuffle, someone offered sympathy for the indignity, and Cato just said he didn't even remember it. That dismissive wit deflected the insult. It refused to grant the event the significance the assailant wanted. Epictetus, the teacher who was once a slave, used irony constantly. He'd paint these vivid, almost silly pictures for his students. Someone getting terribly upset over a broken cup, highlighting how we assign immense value to trivial, external things. His humor was like sandpaper, smoothing down the rough edges of pride and attachment. Now consider a modern leader walking into a tense boardroom. The air is thick with blame because a previous initiative just failed. Spectacularly, the common approach is to double down on grim determination, to meet the tension with more tension. But a leader with a stoic sense of lightness might open differently. They could acknowledge the elephant in the room with a self-deprecating remark. Well, that last plan certainly had a memorable finale. I think my role in that deserves a special award for creative misdirection. This isn't making light of the stakes, it's acknowledging the shared experience of failure without letting that failure define the room's energy. It punctures the balloon of anxiety. Lets everyone exhale, and it creates the psychological space needed to think clearly about the next step. That equanimity shown through lightness becomes contagious. So think of a recent frustration of your own, a technology glitch that ruined your workflow, a social interaction that left you feeling slighted before the irritation solidifies. Pause. Apply this lens. Can you find the humorous angle in the sheer predictability of the hassle? Is there a theatrical absurdity to the sequence of events? Seeing it as a brief scene in a long play doesn't mean you don't fix the problem. It means you solve it from a place of calm clarity, not from a place of personal affront. Your inner citadel is stronger for having windows that let in perspective, and sometimes that light looks like a quiet, knowing smile. The Stoics talked about planting trees. Trees whose shade they knew they might never sit in. That's patience. It's a long view, an act of faith in time itself, because the most important battles, the real ones, they're rarely won in one campaign. They're won across generations. Your role isn't to see the final victory. Your role is to be a strong link, a link in the chain, to do the work that makes the next link possible. And that mindset, it's the ultimate antidote to burnout because it unties your sense of worth. It unties it from the immediate outcome. Your peace comes from knowing you're contributing to a story much larger than your own chapter. Marcus Aurelius, he reflected on this constantly. The flow of time. He wrote of the universe as a single living being. One substance, one soul. He said to observe how all things are born from that single insight. All things accomplished through a single movement. And he saw his own reign, all the wars, the burdens, as just a brief moment. A moment in that endless movement. His duty was to move his small part forward, to move it in alignment with the whole, to act justly today, so the stream of time could carry that justice forward. That perspective, it transforms effort. It turns a sprint into a relay. You run your leg with everything you have, then you pass the baton. Your satisfaction is in the quality of your run, not in crossing a finish line you may never see. Consider an environmental scientist, one working on soil regeneration. The problem took decades to create. The solution will take decades more to manifest. Her experiments are slow. The data points, they accumulate over years. If her daily motivation needed visible, large-scale change, she'd quit. She'd quit in despair, so instead she adopts the planter's mindset. Her satisfaction is in today's precise measurement, in the careful analysis of a single sample. In the paper she publishes, the paper that adds one brick to the wall of understanding, she knows the forest may not regrow in her lifetime. But she tends the seedlings, she tends them with the same care as if she would. Her work is valuable in itself, as an expression of care for the future. As a link in a very long chain. This patience, it's a form of courage, the courage to invest in a future you will not own, to fight for a principle whose full flowering you will not witness. It requires a profound trust in the unfolding of time, and in the goodness of contributing to it. So look at a cause you care about, something that feels larger than you. It could be mentoring, supporting a local institution, advocating for a policy change, one that will take years. Now shift your gaze. Instead of looking for the headline result, look for the tiny, daily link you can forge. Can you find peace in being that link? Can you derive meaning from the simple act, the act of planting the tree, of tending the soil, of passing on the knowledge? Your legacy may not be a monument with your name. It may be the strength you added to the chain, the shade you helped grow for someone you will never meet. That's the long view, and from that vantage point, your front line stretches into eternity, making every principled action eternally significant. Epictetus was a Stoic teacher. He was born a slave, his body wasn't his own, his daily life was dictated by someone else. By every external measure, he had no power, no status, no freedom. Yet in his teachings, he speaks with the authority of someone who was free. He taught that the only real prison is the one we build in our own thinking. A master could be a slave to his passions, to public opinion, to his own fears, and a slave like Epictetus could be the freest person in the room, master of his own judgments. Master of his own choices, that's the radical promise. Your role in society, your job title, your social standing, these are costumes, they're not you. They don't determine the quality of your inner life. They don't determine the virtue of your actions. The front lines of virtue aren't marked by a job description. They're defined by the choices you make within your circumstances. A corporate executive in a corner office is on the front line when she chooses integrity over profit. A parent at home is on the front line when they respond to a child's frustration with patience instead of anger. A volunteer is on the front line when they listen with full presence to someone who feels unseen. The arena is everywhere, the boardroom, the kitchen, the hospital ward, the checkout line. Wherever you have the chance to act with wisdom or justice or courage or self-control, that's your battlefield. That's where your inner citadel is tested. Epictetus kept returning to this internal geography. He said no man is free who is not master of himself. He drew a line. On one side are the things that belong to others, our body, our possessions, our reputation, our social role. On the other side is what is truly ours. Our faculty of choice, our judgments, our character. The person who confuses these, who believes their happiness depends on things in the first category, is in chains. Regardless of their title, the person who invests everything in the second category, who tends to their own moral purpose, is free, regardless of their external condition. Consider a nurse on a long night shift. The system around her is rigid, protocols, schedules, hierarchies, immense human need. Her role on paper is defined by tasks and orders. Yet within that structure, she exercises a profound inner freedom. In the 5 minutes she spends holding the hand of an anxious patient, she is practicing compassion. In the moment she chooses calm focus during a crisis, overriding her own fatigue, she is practicing courage. She may not control hospital policy, but she commands the kingdom of her own attention. Her impact flows from that inner sovereignty. Agency isn't about being in charge of the world. It's about being in charge of your response to the world. So look at your own current role, student, manager, artist, caregiver. Where do you feel the constraints of that role, the script you're expected to follow? Now, within that script, identify one line today where you can improvise with virtue. Can you inject more patience into a routine task? Can you meet an unreasonable demand with a calm response rather than resentment? Can you perform a simple duty with a sense of dignified excellence, simply because it's the right way to do it? That's the exercise of your inner freedom. That's how you plant the flag of your character on the front line you already occupy. In a fight, Stoics practice gratitude. It's not something that just comes when things are good. It's a discipline, a way of directing your attention, because in a long struggle, your focus tightens on what's missing, the obstacle, the thing you haven't solved yet. Gratitude is the conscious shift. It widens the view. It makes you see what's already there, the resources you actually have for the fight. This doesn't ignore the difficulty. It just stops the difficulty from taking over your whole mind. It anchors you in what's good right now, and that anchor keeps you steady when the challenges hit. Marcus Aurelius did this. During his military campaigns, he'd start his writing with lists of gratitude, not big victories or luxuries, simple things. His grandfather's kindness, his father's character, his brother's good nature. He wrote thanks for his teachers, for his health, for his own ability to learn and to reason. He even mentioned being grateful for honey cakes and figs. That was how he grounded himself. Before facing the day's burdens, he'd remind himself of the foundation he was standing on. A foundation of inherited virtue, lessons learned, basic physical capacity. That ritual filled his inner reserves before he went out to meet the world's demands. Think of a social worker after a draining day. The system's failures are clear. The cases are complex, resources are thin, victories are small. The natural focus is on the lack. On what couldn't be fixed, the Stoic practice would guide her to end the day differently. Before leaving her desk, she takes 3 minutes. She notes not big outcomes, but the present goods within the struggle itself. Maybe a moment of genuine connection with a client, a fleeting smile of understanding, her own capacity to listen without judgment when it was needed. A lesson learned today about a resource she can use tomorrow, her own health that let her be present. This isn't painting a rosy picture. It's acknowledging the real, sustaining nutrients that existed in the difficult soil of the day. This practice refuels her resilience. It reminds her why she does the work. It connects her effort to a sense of abundance, not depletion. This discipline directly fuels your capacity to stay on the front lines. When you regularly notice what you have, your health, your mind, your ability to act, the support around you, the lessons inside the hardship itself, you engage from a place of strength, not scarcity. Your contentment grows because you're constantly reaffirming that you have enough to begin, enough to try. So a simple application. Right now, as you listen, bring your attention to your own capacity to engage. Mentally list 3 specific things you're grateful for in this moment, related to your ability to be in your own arena. It could be as basic as the clarity of your mind to consider these ideas. The physical health that lets you show up for your responsibilities. The simple safety of your current environment that gives you space to reflect. Or a recent challenge that taught you something, strengthening your inner citadel. Name them just to yourself. This tiny act is a direct investment in your resilience. It turns your gaze slightly from the horizon you're marching toward to the sturdy ground you're marching on. And from that grounded place, the next step forward feels less like a desperate lunge and more like a confident stride. The world gives us tools, not prizes. And a Stoic will engage with those tools fully, but they won't be shackled by them. That's the idea of preferred indifference: health, wealth, reputation, comfort. These aren't good or bad in themselves. They're indifferent to your moral worth, to your inner peace, but they're not all equal. Some are preferred. It makes sense to prefer health over illness, financial security over poverty, respect over scorn, because these preferred states are better tools. They give you a wider range of opportunities to act virtuously. But the moment you mistake the tool for the goal, you've lost your way. Your happiness gets chained to something outside your control. So the Stoic aims for the virtuous use of the tool, while staying completely detached from whether the tool is granted or taken away. There's a classic analogy: an archer. The archer's virtue is in her skill, her focus, her form, her disciplined release. She does everything in her power to make the perfect shot. Hitting the bullseye is the preferred outcome. But once the arrow leaves the bow, the wind, a moving target, luck, those aren't in her power. A virtuous archer measures success by the excellence of her shot, not by where the arrow lands. The bullseye is a preferred indifferent. The skill and intention are the true goods that reframes every worldly ambition. Take a politician in a campaign. Winning the election is a preferred indifferent. It's the tool that would let her enact just policies. She should campaign with all her skill, energy, strategic wisdom. That effort is her virtuous action. But if she ties her self-worth, her inner peace, to the final vote count, she's handed the keys to her happiness to the electorate. A Stoic politician measures success by the integrity of her campaign, her honesty with voters, her courage in debates, her justice in addressing issues. If she wins, she accepts the tool gratefully and uses it for further virtuous action. If she loses, she accepts that with equanimity, knowing her character is intact. Her effort was honorable. The loss doesn't diminish her. She used the tool of the campaign well, even if she doesn't get to keep it. Your own life is filled with these tools. A career title is a tool for influence and service. Financial means are tools for security, for enabling generosity. Physical fitness is a tool for resilience and energy. We're meant to care for these tools, to use them well, but we're not meant to worship them. So name one preferred indifferent in your life that you sometimes treat as a true good. Something essential to your worth. Is it your job title, the approval of a particular person, a specific level of income or comfort? Practice the reframe. See it clearly as a tool. Ask how you can use this tool today for a virtuous purpose, and how you can hold it more lightly. Knowing its presence or absence doesn't define the quality of your character or the peace in your heart. That mental shift turns engagement from a source of anxiety into a field of skillful, purposeful action. Stoicism isn't just something you do alone. You build that inner strength yourself, but it gets stronger when you hear from other people on the same kind of path. Living a Stoic life, especially out in the world, really benefits from having a community. People who are also trying to be wise. This isn't about getting approval. It's not a club for critics. It's a fellowship focused on virtue, a place to share insights, to talk about struggles, to test your principles against honest conversation, because our own judgments can become echo chambers. A trusted friend can show us where our perception is clouded by pride or fear or just habit. They give us a reflection we can't give ourselves. It turns solitary reflection into a dialogue, and that deepens understanding. Seneca's letters to Lucilius are the classic model for this. He wasn't writing abstract treatises. He was having a real, ongoing conversation with a fellow traveler, offering encouragement, posing hard questions, sharing his own daily struggles with applying Stoic ideas. In one letter he writes, "You must live for another if you wish to live for yourself." That captures the symbiotic nature of it. By helping someone else examine their life and strengthen their character, you clarify those same virtues in yourself. Your own journey gains purpose when it's tied to the growth of others. Practically, this could mean finding a local philosophy group or a thoughtful online forum for Stoic practice. The key is to move beyond just consuming ideas into active, respectful dialogue. You might find one Stoic partner, a friend or colleague, someone you check in with weekly. The accountability isn't about reporting successes. It's about discussing challenges. You might ask each other, where did you apply the dichotomy of control this week? What judgment did you reframe, or where did a passion briefly take over? That shared language creates a support structure. It reminds you the pursuit of wisdom is personal, but it's not meant to be lonely. So consider this. Who is one person you could start a conversation with about these ideas? They don't need to be an expert, just a shared curiosity about living with more intention and resilience. Maybe you mention a concept that resonated with you and ask for their perspective. That single act of reaching out plants a seed. It turns your private reflection into a shared exploration. And in doing that, it fortifies the very peace your most meaningful actions grow from. Your mind has gates, and Stoics guard them. That's the discipline of attention. It's a quiet front, but it's critical. What you let past those gates, the news you take in, the conversations you stay in, the media you absorb, it shapes the atmosphere inside. To fight well out in the world, you have to protect the clarity inside first. In an age of overload, that ancient vigilance becomes a kind of modern power. Epictetus was clear on this. He warned that bad company corrupts good character, and he extended that beyond people to the ideas we entertain. He said you have to be careful about entering into a common wandering with those you meet. Don't let your peace be disturbed by the mere chatter and opinions of others. Your attention is your most precious resource. where you place it determines what grows inside you. Think about choosing to limit outrage-driven news or social media debates in the hour before something important, before a sensitive meeting or a project needing deep focus. That content you consumed wasn't neutral. It likely injected a subtle undercurrent, agitation or cynicism or divisiveness into your mental space. That agitation becomes a filter. It colors your perceptions, shortens your patience, clouds the wisdom you need to act well. The Stoic guard makes a different choice. They might choose silence or listen to something that calms the mind. They gatekeep not to be ignorant of the world, but to meet it from a place of composed strength, not reactive fray. So conduct a small audit. Pick one source, a news channel, a social media thread, a recurring gossipy talk. For the next day, pay attention not just to the content, but to its effect on your inner state. Does it leave you feeling informed and focused, or agitated and scattered? Does it broaden your understanding, or just feed a sense of indignation? The goal isn't to live in a bubble. It's to choose your mental nourishment with the same care you'd choose fuel for a long journey. You are the architect of your inner environment. Every piece of information you let in is either a building block for resilience or a crack in the foundation. What will you choose to let past the gate today? The Stoic isn't rigid. They adapt. They move through different scenes, wearing different costumes, but the actor underneath stays the same. That's the fluidity of roles. You adjust your behavior to fit the situation, while your inner character, your commitment to virtue, stays fixed. The danger isn't playing many parts. The danger is forgetting you're the actor and starting to believe you are the part. When that happens, you lose your core. Your piece starts depending on the script, the applause, the set. Stoicism gives you a way to engage fully in every role without surrendering that way. Marcus Aurelius put it well. He wrote that you're an actor in a play, and the character is determined by the playwright. Your business is to act well the part given to you. You don't control the casting. You might be cast as a leader, a follower, a teacher. These are the external roles given by circumstance, by life's narrative. Your only true business is the quality of your performance. To play a beggar with dignity, to play a king with humility. The costume changes, the virtue behind it doesn't. Think about one person across a single day. At work, they're a project manager. The role demands decisiveness, clear communication. Their virtuous core expresses itself here as wisdom in planning, justice in tasks. They speak directly, they make tough calls, then they come home. The role shifts to parent. The same virtuous core now expresses itself as patience with homework, temperance with their own fatigue. Their tone softens, their pace slows. Later, they're online as a community member. Here, the core expresses itself as courage to speak on an issue, wisdom to fact-check. The behaviors are fluid, tailored to each arena, but the source, the intent to be wise, just courageous, temperate, that's a constant private current running underneath. Without this, we fracture. We become the stern boss who can't switch off at home, or the easygoing friend who lacks authority at work. We feel like a different person in different rooms, and that dissonance drains energy, clouds peace. The Stoic practice integrates you. It asks you to see all roles as chances to express the same principles, just in different dialects. So try this. List the primary roles you play right now. Employee, partner, parent, friend, citizen. Write them down. Now look for the common thread. Ask yourself, if my core task in every role is to act with virtue, what does that look like today? As a partner, can I express justice through fairness in our shared load? As a citizen, can I express courage by writing a thoughtful letter? As an employee, can I express wisdom by focusing on my most important task? This isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about changing the substance of what's already on it. You start to move through your world not as a collection of conflicting masks, but as a single, coherent self, adapted to each moment's need. Stoics aim for the stars, but they keep their feet in the mud. That tension is the secret. It keeps you engaged without breaking your spirit. Virtue is a direction, not a destination. You never fully reach it. To demand perfection in yourself or in the world is to guarantee a quiet despair, because perfection isn't of this world. It's a phantom. Chasing it exhausts you. It turns every noble effort into frustration. The Stoic alternative is to embrace the flawed nature of things. All human endeavors, your own and society's, this acceptance isn't surrender. It's the foundation for action, sustainable, clear-eyed action. It stops noble idealism from curdling into cynicism or leading straight to burnout. Seneca had an insight here. He wrote that the wise person is still progressing toward wisdom. They are not already perfect. He saw the philosophical life as a climb. You're climbing a mountain. You don't stand at the summit looking down. You're always on the path looking up. The goal is to keep climbing, to make progress. To be better today than yesterday. That mindset shifts everything. Your measure of success becomes forward motion, not a flawless state. It lets you look at your own mistakes with curiosity, not self-condemnation. And it lets you look at the world's slow, messy progress with patient resolve, not defeatist anger. Take an advocate working for criminal justice reform. The ideal is a system that's perfectly fair, rehabilitative, humane. The reality is a centuries-old structure riddled with flaws. If her sense of purpose is chained to that perfect ideal, she'll be crushed. Crushed by every setback, every compromise, every delay. She might give up, believing it's hopeless, or she might become so rigid she can't build the coalitions needed for any change at all. Now see her through the Stoic lens of progress. She holds the ideal as her guiding star, the direction she walks toward, but she measures her work by the incremental gains. A policy change that reduces sentences, a program that provides education inside a prison, a single life turned around through mentorship. These are not the perfect system. They are steps on the path. She can celebrate these victories without despairing over the distance still to go. Her inner peace is maintained because her fulfillment comes from the striving, from the reality of progress made, not from the phantom of a perfect finish line. This acceptance of imperfection fuels a more resilient engagement, more creative, more effective. So bring this home. Look at your own front line where you're most invested. Where are you demanding perfection, from yourself or from the outcome? Is it in your parenting, expecting to never lose patience? Is it in your creative work, refusing to share anything until it's flawless? Is it in your community work, feeling any compromise taints the entire effort? Ask yourself. What one shift could you make? Where could you replace the demand for perfection with a celebration of progress? Can you accept a good enough draft as a step toward a better one? Can you see a difficult conversation that didn't resolve everything as a step of clarity, not a failure? This reframe doesn't lower your standards. It changes your relationship to the work. It turns the long, hard road of improvement into a journey you can walk, with peace, with purpose, with a steady heart. When the fighting's over, what's left for the Stoic? It's not monuments, it's not fame, it's not a list of people you beat. What's left is a quiet kind of knowing, the knowing that you lived the way you're supposed to. As a thinking creature, as a person among people, that you used your time in the arena to act with virtue as best you could. That's the real source of peace. It's an internal ledger, and it's balanced with your own integrity, not with gold or praise. No outside power can take it. No shift in luck can wipe it out. It's the final reward for a life spent on the front lines. Marcus Aurelius, near his own end, wrote about this tranquility. He wrote of a soul ready to leave the body. Ready because it's met its obligations. It stops its own impulses. It turns from the senses. It did what it was made to do, all of it without complaint. That readiness isn't giving up. It's the deep calm of a finished job, The job of being human, think of someone older looking back on decades, maybe a teacher or a nurse, a craftsperson, a parent. Their life wasn't a string of big wins. It was a long fabric of small, daily choices, choosing to be patient when they were tired, to be honest when a shortcut was right there, to show up for others when staying home was easier. They might not have trophies on the shelf, but when they look back, they feel a solid contentment. They see a thread of consistency, a character that, while flawed, tried for good. They can rest knowing they played their part, they used their reason. They honored their ties to people. That's the legacy Stoicism points to, a legacy written in the quiet conscience, not in history books. This final measure changes how you move through today. It asks you to look down at the ground of your character, not just at the horizon of achievement. What good action can you take today that goes into that internal ledger? It could be listening to someone, really listening. It could be picking the harder right over the easier wrong in some deal. It could be offering kindness with no thought of getting anything back. Each one of those acts is a deposit into an account of peace that only you can ever open at the very end. So stop for a second, look ahead, picture yourself at the end of your own story, looking back. Not at your job titles or the things you owned. Look back at the moments you acted with courage, with fairness, with wisdom and restraint. Which of those moments would you want to see? Which choices would give you that quiet, unshakable peace? Let that picture guide your next step onto your front line, not fear, not some passing want. Because in the end, that perfect inner peace was never about walking away from the fight. It was about knowing deep down that you fought well. The contradiction wasn't a flaw. It was the design. We walked through the inner citadel. We stood on the front lines, and what looked like two opposing forces, it's a kind of harmony. Your peace isn't about leaving the arena. It's about fortifying the ground you stand on. We went back to the core tools, the dichotomy of control, that filter. It directs your energy toward what's actually yours, your judgments, your efforts, your character. Then virtuous action, that's the expression of the inner work. It makes engagement a contribution, not a conquest. We practiced Amor, Fati, loving your fate, that becomes fuel. Resilience comes from that, from the evening review. The view from above, guarding your attention. The whole framework has one purpose, to let you be an effective force, a compassionate force in the world. Without being consumed by it, Stoicism isn't an escape from life's battles. It's the toolkit to fight them well, to stand there with clarity, with compassion. Long after others have burned out, Marcus Aurelius wrote from his own front lines. He said, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." That's the complete stance. Acceptance isn't passive, it's seeing reality clearly. Love isn't sentimental, it's the committed action you take inside that reality. True strength is holding both at once, the balanced stance rooted in peace, reaching out in action.